How would you comment the current situation in the southeast region in terms of renewable energy, and what are the possibilities for development?
It's very satisfactory to finally also see the uptake on the market here is so high, to see Bulgarian project developers, SMEs, regulators, even politicians showing up to talk specifically about renewable energy financing, and they have really ambitious targets for the market. I have to say that indeed the Bulgarian market is not yet as developed as we would maybe hope it would. So I would say the market still has a lot of potential. The growth projections at least are very high and very significant. But the problem is right now that the prices are highly volatile, and this is really making bank-financed RE projects rather difficult. But I think it's still a very good environment to finance self-consumption, rooftop PVs and other forms of renewable energy financing. And what is important is to actually emphasize the role of distributed PV, which means the small-scale rooftop PVs which actually are of our own consumption. They do not need to be connected to the grid in terms of lengthy grid accession process. Within short term, there's low risk of completion, and the distributed PV actually is expected to become more and more relevant in terms of total PV capacity. Above 40% is expected to come from distributed PV, and this is exactly what the SME sector is doing. So households, PI, and SMEs in industry, especially in also agriculture, are investing into renewables at a very small scale, but in accumulation at a very large scale. This is what we are seeing already now. We have quite a significant growth in this portfolio, and we really see here a significant impact also in terms of resilience against shocks, reduced CO2 emissions, and also, I would say, knowledge being created in the markets, which will then also multiply in the future. But indeed, we can see here a very nice development, kind of an ecosystem of companies and people developing in Bulgaria, talking to each other, developing networks, and I'm very happy to see that. And we are very happy to be part of this here in ProCredit. And this is something which really changes, in a sense, the picture, that in the past we had these large-scale corporates, often international, developing fossil fuel projects and kind of having only baseload power and benefiting from the electricity system, to something which is much more distributed.
Can you share ProCredit Bank's experience with energy cooperatives?
I think energy communities, from a political point of view and ESG point of view, are mitigating risks and increasing the acceptance of the population. So we have mainly gained experience in financing energy communities or energy cooperatives in the Greek market. But in principle, this legal structure is nothing new. It's something which exists already since more than 100 years in Western Europe as well. And the idea is simple. The people from the region are basically creating a legal entity which allows them to invest into the own electricity generation, which in turn also is being consumed by the region itself. It allows them to invest capital into something sustainable, long-term and profitable, and it really democratizes, as I mentioned before, democratizes the whole energy generation area. In terms of ESG, I think this also has many side benefits. But if you actually work with the local communities who might know which are the best areas to put PV parks, unproductive land, for example, or who might also be benefiting then from the wind parks in their backyard and don't look at it anymore as something disturbing, but something which is generating cash while they're sleeping, actually you change the attitude of the population, and suddenly you also have a different understanding of the energy transition and much more support.
Tell us more about ProCredit Bank's experience in the area of green financing.
So ProCredit has started with green finance more than 15 years ago. Also, given that we are based in Germany and we have also experience in financing projects in Germany through our local subsidiary, we've actually gained experience in a very developed RE market, one of the most, or even the most developed RE market in the world. So here, gaining this experience in Germany and from the IFI has definitely helped building the capacities and the credit technology that we now benefit from in terms of financing. But we can use the experience from our international outreach basically and then multiply it in the local markets.
What's the role of the EU's green taxonomy in fueling renewable energy development in southeastern Europe?
Well, the EU taxonomy is really a long-term industrial policy project. I mean, the idea is to move Europe to become the first carbon neutral continent by 2050, and you cannot just put out these targets or these goals without clearly defining what does it actually mean in terms of investments, in terms of financing, and in terms of year by year also midterm targets. And the EU taxonomy really, I think, is a milestone in this context. It really defines what is green, what is not green. Obviously, the effect is not something that we will see from a day to the next. So I think the effect will be much more long-term, I think the EU taxonomy has really put green finance in the center of attention of the financial sector, and as a consequence also to the real sector. And we will now see, I think, more and more competition also in the banking sector and generally finance sector when it comes to green finance. I'm expecting that all banks will have to show their green asset ratio as a consequence using the green EU taxonomy. And I think that ProCredit, given that we already have around 20% green share of our loan portfolio, we will be outstanding in this context. So in this context, I think it is really important that finally we are being rewarded for our early movement into the green finance area. And I think in the future it would only be fair also to have some form of a capital relief for green loans as compared to non-green loans. I think this is something that is going to follow in the future based on the EU taxonomy, but of course we first need to see what is the uptake and where the development will lead to. But when compared to the other market participants, I believe also ProCredit is already advanced in terms of ESG, and the EU taxonomy is really going to also reward us for doing so, because it will be less costly for us to be in compliance with these criteria, which will become market practice.